What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into Tom Waits' Everything catalog with official release number 8, a soundtrack album to Francis Ford Coppola's One from the Heart, which also features Crystal Gayle. There are a number of duets between Tom and Crystal. There are a number of songs that Crystal sings by herself. There are a number of songs that Tom Waits sings by himself. There are 2 instrumentals. Even though this is a soundtrack, I'm going to consider it in like sort of the discography because Tom Waits doesn't have ultimately that many albums, and it is an interesting, not necessarily departure, but step way back into the side of what Tom Waits was sort of leading towards in his career. And then this kind of happens. So I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to rank it among the other 7 I've done. And yeah, and that will be it. Not play music from it because yeah, you don't need to hear music from it. That might be my last statement on this. No, I have more to say. There is a world where instead of Francis Ford Coppola and Tom Waits meeting in 1981, 1982, and deciding to do this movie soundtrack, that instead of meeting then, they meet in the 70s. And Francis is like, you know what? Doing this movie about Vietnam, you want to do the soundtrack to that? Yeah, I'm going to use some classic rock stuff, but we can throw in some of your stuff. That would have been way more fascinating, Tom Waits doing Vietnam. But instead we get Tom Waits. I've not seen One from the Heart, but from what I've just learned very recently is that it's about like romantic partners kind of like wandering for the night purposefully and then coming back together. And it got panned back in the day when it was released. I mean, Coppola had done, Apocalypse Now for one, Godfather for the other for once. And then this came out and it got panned. I guess now it's a little more esteemed, at least as far as the director aspect of it goes. Terry Garr was in it. Fantastic Terry Garr. And though these aren't sung, it's not a musical, apparently these songs play a very prominent role in sort of filling out the scenes. They're not just filler music. I haven't seen it. This is just what I've read recently. And I don't know what that has to do with anything, but that's what the movie is inspired by. It's a soundtrack. Oh yeah, there is a world in which the Apocalypse Now thing happens. But instead this happens. And this is almost like Tom Waits' approach to doing the soundtrack was like, let's do what I did on Foreign Affairs, but with much less edge. Which if you know Foreign Affairs, like that's pretty edgeless. Yeah, it's pretty smooth. And this is just lounge jazz, maybe a little higher up than cocktail lounge jazz. But he's back on his Monday night gig, only he's not working some seedy street in LA, but maybe working a Monday night gig in Vegas. So it's a little nice clientele, but it's still some pretty safe piano-driven jazz. Got some trumpets, got some nice jazz guitar every once in a while, got some big boom, boom, bomby drums every once in a while, but it's pretty safe music. And something else, man, my mind is all over the place tonight. So it's that. There's 12 songs. Crystal sings on 6 of them. I think a couple of them are duets. Oh, and Crystal Gayle, if you don't know, is Loretta Lynn's younger sister. And I think Crystal is one of the reasons this album doesn't work. She has a good voice, but she has a very clean, pure country voice. And it is so clean and it is so pure that you're really almost lacking any sort of character or any sort of, you're definitely missing anybody who's ever lived on the streets of LA from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. for weeks, months at a time, or every weekend or whatever it is. Tom Waits absorbed all his information about LA. She's not lived that kind of life. And there is a world where that contrast between Waits, who wrote all the songs, so the lyrics are things that can be sung and interpreted and do service to Tom Waits. I don't think Crystal does that. She can sing them beautifully, but she just doesn't have that character. And I think you even let Loretta Lynn sing these, and this is a better album. But yeah, the pairing doesn't work. And then even if you remove the pairing, a lot of these songs almost feel like you took every other Tom Waits song and put it into Chat GBT and said, hey, give me a Tom Waits song called Broken Bicycles, and out come these lyrics. And there's some great one-liners in here. There's some really clever stuff in here. A lot of times when Crystal is singing a song, I'll like focus on the lyrics as I'm like, man, in the hands of somebody who has more lived this or has that sort of edginess, this is probably a really good song. But I don't know, it's just not clicking for me. So opens up with something called Opening Montage, which is opens up with like a very piano lounge. There's a lot of strings on here. There's orchestration. Forgot to mention that. That doesn't help. But the opening montage has this very sort of, it's like three different songs. Tom's piano intro, Once Upon a Town, The Wages of Love. And it's like a piano lounge duet. And we go into some lazy strolling jazz. And then the horns come in. We get a little ambient, I think, city noise at the end to like maybe set the movie scene. But I don't know, it doesn't do much. And I think it's clear from the start that Tom, in order to make it work, Tom might need to be way raspier and gruffier and draw more of a stark contrast between the voices. He's in good form, not in like pure Tom Waits form, but good singing form. Good, like I can hold my own on a Wednesday night in Vegas. Like he's singing pretty well. And I think him smoothing those edges doesn't help. Is There Any Way Out of This Dream is the second song. Crystal sings it by herself, just a jazzy ballad. Third song, Picking Up After You. This is one of those that seems to have a lot of those, like almost be a series of Chat GBT one-liners. One of them, I don't know what this means, but it jumps out at me every time I've listened to this album, which recently has been twice, as I had to remind myself why I never listened to this album. And then the two times I listened to it, I was like, yeah, okay. But one of the lines that jumped out at me both times was, you don't defrost the icebox with a ballpoint pen. I mean, it is true. You don't. I mean, I don't, right? Okay. Chat GBT nailed that one. Next is Old Boyfriend, which is a Crystal Gayle song by herself. I really like the lyrics to this one. And I think in the hands of somebody who's more into the character, who's, singing about old boyfriends, I think it maybe delivers a little bit of a bigger punch. And knowing that these are Tom Waits lyrics, they need to be infested with something a little more than what Crystal's given them. And there's a really nice line in there. He fell in love, you see, with someone I used to be. It's that kind of like Tom Waits. And I just don't think Crystal's just not getting it or something. Broken Bicycles is next. Piano ballad, some Tom Waits nostalgic morning in there. Some really nice darker piano vibes. We get a train whistle in the distance at the end of the song, which is, always tugs at the heartstrings. Next, we get a song called I Beg Your Pardon, piano and voice, with Tom singing this one. Another great line, I got a bottle full of trumpet and a hat box full of drum. I like that line. Nice trumpet, there's a trumpet and a saxophone solo at the end. They kind of go back and forth. This has a very woozy, jazzy nightclub vibe. It's orchestra comes in at some point to be like, to ruin maybe the vibe that is positive. It just sweetens the pot a little bit too much. Little Boy Blue feels like Chat GBT, referencing a nursery rhyme and then taken off into like Tom Waits territory. Right? Got a nice walking bass line in here. This and the next couple songs have way more energy than the stuff that preceded it. A little more percussion, some big percussion. Little Boy Blue, by far the most fun you're going to have on this album. The liveliest number yet. Another great line. This one jumped out at me both times. Everything's Canada dry. I don't know why. I like that line. Nice organ sound of this. Really good. We get an instrumental montage, which has this doom, 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 big bouncing drums, kind of like a herky-jerky type, almost like jazzy dance number. There's some really good piano action here that kind of reminds me of some of the stuff Paige does in Fish's Bathtub Gin, where it's like, but these like falling down a stair type piano, like little motifs. I like that. Kind of little King Crimson cat food, dude, that kind of funkiness slightly. And then because it's a montage, at the end, we go into some accordion cafe music, which sounds very of the movie. Next, You Can't Unring a Bell, big drums, but this nice, slow, kind of prominent, taking charge, but slow walking bass line. Not walking, but just not going anywhere too much in a hurry, but doing it with a little bit of confidence, kind of moody, kind of atmospheric. Okay, little Tom Waits number. This one's from the heart, the longest one on here. It's a duet. Another great line that could be Chat GBT or could be a really good Tom Waits line. Is that a siren or a saxophone? I like that line. Then we get Take Me Home, a crystal piano ballad, and we close with an encore, presents, instrumental, kind of a lullaby, like putting your baby to sleep in the crib. You might play this lullaby to put her to sleep. It's not a bad album, and if you're a Crystal Gayle fan, it might be one of the edgiest albums you own. Don't it make my brown eyes, don't it make my brown eyes blue? That's Crystal, right? But yeah, I mean, I've not listened to this since I bought it at a used record store 30 years ago, because you have to have them all. And if you can find them for cheap, you got to get them. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Maybe if I watch the movie, these songs will take on more depth or more meaning, but it just doesn't scratch any itch that I need scratched. Yeah. But is it bad? No. Are the lyrics good? At times, yes, but at times they could just be, they're Tom Waits at sometimes his most average, but average Tom Waits are really good lyrics, so there's that. But if you're a Crystal Gayle fan, I would like to know what you think of this, because you might love it. But that's all I got. I feel like I'm just filling air already. That's how I would rank it. I don't think that's a surprise. 8 of 8. It is the one at 7. It is like a softer version of that. If that was rated PG, then they took out whatever made it P, and this is sort of the G-rated, not in specific lyrical content, but just overall vibe and feelings of aggression, which this one lacks. But yeah, all right. That's all I got. Again, not a horrible album, and I know some people who love it. Not personally, but I read reviews of people praising this album. I was kind of confused. I have one friend who likes it, doesn't think it's great, but doesn't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad. I just don't like it. All right, I'm done. Peace. Talk to you later.